HOA Karen calls cops on my ranch fence. It's a wildlife corridor. When I moved to my grandfather's old ranch on the outskirts of town, I wanted peace, open skies, and a life closer to nature. The 10-acre stretch of land had been in my family for decades, but it was abandoned after my grandfather passed. I decided to restore it, not just the house, but the land, the wildlife paths, and everything that made it beautiful. One of the first things I did was rebuild the perimeter fence, not to keep animals out but to guide them safely through. I consulted with the state's Wildlife Preservation Department and got their official maps showing a migration corridor that passed right through my property. It was a known path for deer and foxes, raccoons, even the occasional bobcat. So I followed their recommendations and built the fence with special gaps wide enough for wildlife to pass through but low enough to prevent straying livestock. It was rustic, practical, and completely legal under the state's Rural Land Exemption Code. I thought everyone would be happy, but then came Karen. She didn't live next to me. Heck, she didn't even live on my road. But somehow she appointed herself as the neighborhood watch, code enforcer, and judge, jury, and executioner of the entire HOA board. The problem was, my ranch wasn't even part of the HOA. Still, one morning, a shiny white SUV rolled up my dirt road. Out stepped Karen, clipboard in hand, sunglasses too big for her face, and a scowl that could curdle milk. "Hello, you must be the new property owner," she chirped. Fake smile and all. "Morning," I said, wiping sweat off my brow. I was out near the fence, hammering the last post. She wasted no time. "I'm with the Rolling Pines HOA, and I need to inform you that your fence violates code." I raised an eyebrow. "This ranch isn't in your HOA." She flipped a page. On her clipboard, all properties within a 3-mile buffer zone are subject to aesthetic compliance. Your fence lacks uniformity, is non-standard height, and those holes are unsafe. "They're wildlife corridors," I replied, trying to stay polite. "I have state documentation." She wasn't having it. "It's not approved. I'll be reporting this. You can expect a compliance letter within the week." I chuckled. "You don't have jurisdiction here." She stepped back like I'd just insulted her religion. "Then I'll involve the sheriff. You're creating a public hazard." I wanted to argue more, but I knew better. Some people only listen to badges and paperwork. Sure enough, 3 days later, a county deputy showed up at my gate. It was early morning, and I was sipping coffee on the porch when I saw the cruiser. "Morning," I called out as he stepped onto the gravel drive. "Got a complaint about a fence?" he said, clearly unamused. I led him over and explained everything: how the fence was built to conservation specs, how I worked with the state, and how Karen had no authority here. He nodded slowly, taking it all in. "Got any documentation?" he asked. I handed him the file folder I kept in my truck. He flipped through it, impressed. "You've got more paperwork than half our city projects," he said with a grin. All checks out." As if fate itself wanted to make a point. Right then, a young fox darted through one of the gaps in the fence and disappeared into the woods. The deputy laughed. "Well, looks like this fence is doing its job." I smiled. "Exactly." He shook his head. "We've had 3 calls from her in the past week. One was about someone's lawn color. The other was a suspicious bird feeder. I'll file this as resolved. She needs a hobby." But Karen wasn't done. The very next weekend she returned, this time with 2 other HOA members in tow. They stood on the road, snapping pictures of my fence like it was a crime scene. I walked up to the gate. "You all lost, or just bored?" Karen raised her phone. "You'll be receiving a fine. I told you. This land is exempt." One of the men beside her, probably the treasurer or secretary or whatever title they'd given themselves, stepped forward. "Sir, even if you're outside the direct boundary, the HOA has expectations of visual consistency." I laughed. "Then, plant some trees to block the view." Karen's voice got sharper. "We're taking this to the county zoning board. You'll be forced to remove it." "Good luck," I replied. "Wildlife corridors are protected. You're wasting everyone's time." And they did take it to the board. I got a formal letter from the county 2 weeks later, asking for a hearing. I brought my documentation again: maps, permits, reports, and even a video of deer using the fence gaps. The county official looked at everything and gave a clear verdict. "Your property is in full compliance with state and county law. The HOA has no jurisdiction. Case closed. Or so I thought. Karen showed up one last time, standing just outside my gate, fuming. She didn't say anything, just stared at the fence like it had personally betrayed her. I leaned on the fence post. "You want some lemonade while you're out here losing?" she finally snapped. "You think this is funny? That I'm the only one who cares about order?" I replied calmly. "I think wildlife matters more than your power trip." She stormed off without another word. Now it's been 3 months. The fence is still standing. Wildlife still crosses through. And Karen, she's moved on to harassing people over mailbox heights. I've posted trail cams along the fence. I upload the best wildlife videos to a channel I started called Wildlife Wins, the latest one where a doe leads her fawn safely through the corridor in viral. And every time I watch it, I smile, because sometimes the best way to beat Karen is with kindness, facts, and a fence that works for everyone who calls the land home.